So this is one that I've been trying to get to for a while because it is a film that just feels like it was tailor-made for me. Every now and then you get those kind of films. I remember Their Finest felt like that. Stan and Ollie felt like that. You know, one of those movies that just seemed like it was gonna scratch every itch that you kind of personally have. And this one is a wonderful, wonderful love letter to a lot of things that I just adore. The golden age of Hollywood, you know, old black and white movies from the 30s and 40s. And Citizen Kane, especially. Kane is one of my all-time favorite movies. I know that's not a unique thing to say when you're someone who enjoys movies. Everyone says, oh, I love Citizen Kane. But I'll be honest, guys, I really do. I love that movie. And what I love about it is I think it is probably the greatest example of film as an art form that I've ever seen. And I've mentioned this in other reviews and other things, but with Citizen Kane, it really does feel like every time I watch it, I see something different. I see it in a different way. I see an angle I didn't notice before, or a directing trick I didn't notice before. It deserves the title of the greatest movie ever made, in my opinion. Not my favorite movie, but I think in terms of the story, the acting, the manner in which the story is told, yeah, I think this is probably the best one that's ever been made. So what this film is dealing with specifically is it is dealing with the man who wrote it, a gentleman by the name of Mankiewicz, hence the name Mank, and his journey from kind of being one of the most respected screenwriters in Hollywood, part of what I guess you could refer to as almost the inner circle. He was part of William Randolph Hearst's little crew, and how he kind of fell from grace, and how his writing of Kane, which many people would consider, of course, the best thing he ever wrote, and also netted him an Oscar, and how the writing of that particular film was almost like therapy to him. Every good writer knows that, you know, when you write, you're writing your experiences in one way or another, you know, and you use your writing, you use your art to work through whatever kind of personal issues are going on with you. And that's something that happens a lot in this film, is him basically using the writing of Kane to work through his own particular issues. So right away, I think the thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to mention this, I watched this film with Rebecca, my girlfriend, and she has some really nice insights to it, and I want to share some of her insights as well. But one of the first things that just grabs me is you can tell that the director, David Fincher, that he is a fan of Kane. Because just like Kane is kind of a masterclass in directing, so too is this film. This has got to be probably one of the best directed movies I've seen in a long, long time. This is a movie that, I mean, I haven't been keeping up with a lot of films, obviously, for, you know, obvious reasons. So I don't know who's in the conversation for Oscars. I know they've pushed the Oscars back. But I think for his work on this film, David Fincher deserves a nod at that. This film is beautiful. And it shows not only his knowledge of Kane, but also his knowledge of, you know, movies of that era. Much like Kane, this film jumps around in time from the present when he's writing Kane to the past to kind of show how things fell into place. And this is something Rebecca pointed out as well, so we had a little conversation about this, is that for each time period, this movie has a completely different look and feel. When we're in the present, it has almost like a film noir feel to it. The shadows are a lot harsher. There are a lot more shadows. It's a lot darker, you know, kind of mirroring Mank's personal demons and the mood that he's in. when we're doing the flashbacks, especially the scenes that Gary Oldman has with Amanda Seyfried, who I'm mispronouncing her name, I'm sorry, as Marion Davis, the lighting is much brighter. It's a lot softer. It's almost like an old romance. So, and as the movie kind of goes, and the past is getting darker, and his future is getting brighter, it kind of juxtaposes very slowly. It's really clever and incredibly well done. And I don't know if it was shot in black and white. I don't know if they did a color transfer in black and white. But the choices on where to use the black and white and how harsh to make the shadows, the light coming in from various blinds, it's phenomenal. It's a gorgeous film to look at. It's also an excellent film to listen to. The dialogue is very quick, very interesting, very witty. It's back and forth. It's when the scenes are working, they're really working. And funny that in a movie about a writer, of course, the writing is going to be incredibly significant. I also think it's a fairly well-acted film. Now, this is where Rebecca and my opinions differ just slightly. We both agree that Amanda Seyfried as Marion Davis was kind of the high point of the movie. She did an amazing job. I think this is what we might call a star turn for her. This I think is a acting role that kind of breaks her out of, that kind of mold she's been in. And she's always been a good actor. But I think this one really shows what she can do. Ironic because she's playing Marion Davis. And Rebecca made this point. These are her words that I'm going to say, is that, she's playing the character, not the caricature. That she's really... A lot of times, these are my words now, this is my example. When an actor is playing a famous actor or any kind of historical figure, what you'll sometimes find is that they get so lost in trying to do an exact impersonation that there's no real acting there. I thought that way when Natalie Portman played Jackie O, that she was so focused on doing the accent that there was no acting going on. And I don't feel that that's the issue here. She just fits so seamlessly into this role. And little things like being able to use the slang of the time and not have it sound cheap like it can often do when, modern actors are using, I guess now over 100 years old slang. It can sound very forced. It sounds very natural coming from her. So Rebecca feels that this is going to net her an Oscar nomination. I don't know about that. I think it was a great performance, without a doubt. Is it Oscar-worthy? I don't know. I really don't know. Because I believe the role is too subtle. I think, for Oscar, I mean, not for the performance. Performance is magnificent. But for Oscar, I think it's too subtle. They like bigger things to sink their teeth into. Rebecca and I also disagree on Gary Oldman. She did not like Gary Oldman in this. She thought he was the weak link in the film, that he's just kind of doing the drunken character that he's done in previous things, and I can totally see that. I disagree. I don't think it's a great performance, but I do think he maintains his reputation of being able to disappear into a role. Like, I'm watching it, I didn't see Gary Oldman. Matter of fact, in a couple shots, he looked almost like Jeff Daniels. So I thought it was Jeff Daniels there in a few shots. I thought it was a good performance. Now, that is a performance because it's very big. It's a much bigger performance. And I don't mean in terms of screen time, just in terms of, big acting choices. That's the one Oscar is going to love, because they love it when people go over the top. Some other great, the supporting cast is all wonderful. They all play their role very well. I forget the gentleman who's playing Orson Welles, but one of the things I liked about him is that he really gets the cadence of Orson Welles' voice, like his pronunciation and enunciation of words. He really nailed that very, very well. So yeah, acting-wise, it's fantastic. Directing-wise, it's a masterpiece. Writing-wise, it's brilliant. So, is it a perfect movie? No, I think it's a little long. I do think it drags a bit in the middle. I also feel, and this is again where Rebecca and I disagree, and she makes some excellent points. I feel like it's a little too disjointed. Ironically, because that's one of the criticisms of Kane, is that it was too disjointed. But I feel like if you're doing a biopic, now this is where Rebecca's and my definitions kind of differ. I think you're doing it because you have something very specific to say about that person. And when all is said and done, there was so much going on in this that, I don't know, I felt like I was a little unclear as to what the point was, or what the director was trying to say. Because it seems like a lot of the movie is going along with him kind of on the, what we would consider the right side of politics, the right side of government, while everyone else is kind of dealing with corruption and fake news. It's an interesting directorial thing, that you use a story about a media mogul that was manipulating voters in order to get elected, to kind of take a swing at a modern-day media mogul who manipulated people to get elected. You know, I thought it was a great parallel between what Wells and Mankiewicz did with Hearst is what they're basically doing here with Trump. And I thought that was kind of ballsy and very interesting. So a lot of the movie goes along, and that's kind of the central conceit of how he was on the wrong side of history, or the wrong side of politics in terms of the folks he was associating with, and how that kind of lost him his friends and his position and all of that. But here's the issue, is that at the end, the little title cards that come up, you know how you do biopics and you say what kind of happened to people, are all about how he and Orson Welles fought for screen credit. It's like, okay, why is that what you're leaving us with? Why is that the piece of information that you're leaving us with? You know? When the whole movie's been about his battle with Hearst, the battle with Welles that they bring up kind of at the end seems secondary. So I'm just left with a little bit of a question of, what was your point? If you wanted this to be about him and his battle with Welles, then why wasn't the whole movie about that? If you wanted this to be about him and his battle with Hearst, why was that not the subject of the end of the movie title scroll? I know that's a stupid thing to obsess about, but it just shows kind of a lack of focus to me. Rebecca would disagree and say that she felt the director's point was very clear, and that the story of his life was, you know, laid out very well. So again, this is just a simple difference of opinion, and yeah. I also got to say, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of different movies, and there are some plays about it as well, about the making of Citizen Kane and the process of writing it, the process of making it, and of course the inevitable backlash to it. And it's interesting that all these different ones seem to tell 100 different stories, depending on which angle they're coming at it from. So this one comes at it from the point of view that Mankiewicz wrote the entire thing. Others have come at it that it was a collaborative effort between him and Wells. This one kind of paints it that the backlash against it began while it was still in the writing process, and from what I come to understand, the backlash against it really didn't start until the movie was almost 90% finished, and people were starting to hear about it. As I recall, and I could be wrong about this, the script was a pretty closely held secret. So it's just going to be interesting. Now, these are not things that take away from it. Obviously, you're telling a specific story, and you're using the historical elements and characters to kind of use as the avatars for that story. Obviously, that's what they're trying to do here. So I understand that, you know, historically speaking, it's not going to be accurate. It's so interesting to me how many of these different stories come at it from so many different ways, which is very fitting when you consider Orson Welles as a person. So, final grade for Mank. That is a tough one. But I think when all is said and done, I gotta go an A- on this one. I think that it succeeded in exactly what it was trying to do. It's a beautifully made film. The story is just incredibly fascinating, the way it's put together, and again, how it kind of mirrors Kane. I also think it's a boon to the film that you don't actually have to be that familiar with Kane to enjoy this movie. This isn't a thing where if you've, because Rebecca has never seen Citizen Kane, but she's able to follow the story. So seeing Citizen Kane and this film is kind of like reading the comic books and going to a Marvel movie. If you read the comic books, you might catch some of the references and some of the little in-jokes and whatnot, but you don't have to have read every single comic book to understand what's going on in a Marvel movie. And I think this film does that very well. It pays off the big-time fans of Kane and the history, but at the same time, it's very welcoming to new viewers. And as Rebecca said, it makes her want to watch Citizen Kane, which I think everybody should watch Citizen Kane anyway, so that works for me. So yeah, A- on this one. I think overall, the biggest thing I take away from it is the brilliant directing and the performance of Amanda Seinfeld. I think that was definitely the highlights of this one. All right, so I know this review was a little choppy. We were having some camera issues, but I think we've kind of figured it out. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But this is kind of the final drive home reviews for the year. I know there are a couple other movies that are going to be coming out between now and the end of the year that I may try to check out and may try to do some reviews on, but those will most likely be after the new year that I know we're all looking forward to. I'm not in this camp that thinks that once the clock strikes midnight that all of our problems are going to go away, but I do think what we all deserve is a good hearty pat on the back for having gotten through this. So I hope that everyone has had a good holiday season. And I want to thank you for those of you who have come along with me on the journey during this bizarre time of not just drive home reviews, but also Forgotten Gems, Series the Series. I'll be reviewing for Christmas. This is Halloween reviews, and whatever else little subcategory I cooked up to kind of keep my sanity. I hope that they've helped. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope you've had I hope that you're looking forward to the new year with some enthusiasm. I know I am, and I hope you are too. So, just in case we don't talk again until after the new year, for Drive Home Reviews, a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a Happy New Year, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.